Hello. Hello, everybody. I'm your boss, Joe Boss. Welcome to another stream. Oh man, we got some stuff to watch here. We got quite a bit of stuff to watch here. I want to go over the charts first because I know a lot of y'all are here for the charts. Hello. Nice to see you. Oh man, I got more stuff here. I got a lot more stuff here. Let's see. I've got to change the screen cap. Yep, there we go. Look, I got some pretty flowers here on the screen. Something nice and beautiful, not like destructive, everything blowing up in war, right? It's like, it's a nice change of pace, right? But like the last couple of streams here, I have something I think you guys will like to see. There's a party in London, and guess what song they're playing at the party in London? Comedy dead. This song's bopping. It's become very popular now. This song's gonna be historic. A lot of people are gonna remember this song for a long time. 70,000 people at a pro-Trump, pro-Israel rally in central London. And they just had, oh my God, I love London, man. I love it. Because you know what? They had that Unite the Nation rally, that huge protest that actually happened shortly after Charlie Kirk's assassination. It was, and then he became a big part of the symbolism in that. Oh, we love the UK. We love the UK. We love the UK, don't we? Now, I don't know if 70,000 people actually showed up there. That seems like a big number to me. Like a big old number. But let's get into just the context before we get into some charts. I want to get into the charts as quickly as possible, but we do need a little bit of context vis-a-vis the title of the video. The Iranian president, I don't know exactly how to say his name, Pezeshkian. Yesterday, the Temporary Leadership Council approved that there should be no more attacks on neighboring countries and no missile attacks unless an attack against Iran originates from these countries. And this guy actually has an X account, believe it or not. This guy is giving policy over fucking X. Every important world leader, even Trump, is still posting on X. But at least Trump gets all of his shit cross-posted from Truth Social onto X anyways. And if you're in the Discord, we actually have a channel that's explicitly set up with RSS feeds connected directly to Truth Social, so whenever Trump is posting, you can get notified in case you're not an avid Truth Social user like most people. And Trump acknowledged Iran's statements here on Truth Social. So Iran, which is being beat to hell, has apologized and surrendered to its Middle East neighbors and promised that it will not shoot at them anymore. This promise was only made because of the relentless US and Israeli attack. They were looking to take over and rule the Middle East. It is the first time that Iran has ever lost in thousands of years to surrounding Middle Eastern countries. They have said, "Thank you, President Trump." I have said, "You're welcome." Iran is no longer the bully of the Middle East. They are instead the losers of the Middle East and will be for many decades until they surrender or more likely completely collapse. Today, Iran will be hit very hard under serious consideration for complete destruction and certain death because of Iran's bad behavior. Are areas and groups of people that were not considered for targeting up until this moment in time. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So it actually seems like as Iran is trying to tone down things, Trump is actually saying, well, you either you're getting closer, but you have to completely surrender. And if you don't, we will blow you to smithereens. We will blow you asunder. And the Saudis met with Pakistan to discuss actually deterring ongoing, continuing attacks. And, they're on both sides. Pakistan's to the east. Saudis are to the west. So they're now talking to each other about maybe doing something jointly together on the military front. So this is the Middle East coming together to say, hey, Iran, fucking stop it. Fucking stop it. But the Syrians and the Kurds and the Iraqis and Qataris and Oman, everyone, no one likes fucking Iran right now. No one likes Iran right now. So let's say that the Iranian report is true and we do see more of these groups start to tone down the missile launches against other Middle Eastern countries. And we will go over some of the areas that are hurt most by the other Middle Eastern countries getting hit from Iran. Mostly it's going to be oil here. So if we go and look at oil, oil trading has currently stopped. We're currently at 90. But if this is true and Iran promises to stop attacking other Middle Eastern countries, guess what? It's very likely oil will start to flow next week. Oil will start to come out of the Persian Gulf and Strait of Hormuz because apparently my assumption would be if Iran is going to say we won't attack the Middle Eastern countries, it would also mean their assets and their boats and their tankers, their VLCCs. That's what I would interpret it as. Now, maybe Iran has to clarify that that's not actually what they mean. They just mean we won't attack you in the land space, but we'll still blow up your tankers if you try and move oil out for whatever reason. Now, they haven't said that. And I believe that the rest of these Middle Eastern countries, after just being told by Iran that we won't attack you, then getting some of their ships fucking blown up or some of their refineries or oil infrastructure blown up, that they are going to go and tell Iran, okay, that deal, whatever you just said, is totally off. We're not going to trust you. So I don't think that the Iranians will now attack Middle Eastern oil infrastructure, especially that of other countries. They're still trying to attack U.S. and Israeli assets, though. They made that explicitly clear. So with that in mind, that should lift this from that should lift supply a bit. That should start being the precedent for, okay, we're gonna hopefully start sending ships into the Persian Gulf. So there could very well be a bounce. But especially for example in Qatar, where LNG oil facilities were turned offline, it doesn't seem like that's actually going to be I gotta turn down this music just a teeny tad. Oh my god, stop. Oh yeah, the sun came out from behind some cloud and it's screwing up my lighting. Stop screwing up behind me. Okay. What was I just saying about, it was Qatar. Yeah, Qatar just shut down a bunch of stuff. A bunch of production. And if we go to TTF here, oh, accidentally turned off the music. We go to TTF. Here at TTF, this is what Europe cares about really the most, is nat gas going through the roof. The reason why this has jumped high is because Qatar turned off production. And it could take them about another week or two or 3 to get this turned back on, which is not going to be easy unless things significantly really de-escalate and the Qataris can essentially say, okay, we can trust that the Iranians are actually not going to fucking attack us, so we can begin the process of reactivating LNG liquefaction to start shipping LNG out of the country into the rest of the world again, but especially for Europe. Because when Qatar shut off their LNG manufacturing, their LNG liquefaction, I don't know, it was like a hair or something, a fly, I don't know. Something just like felt like it just crawled across my face. What's fuck all weird? Hey, stop that. I'm trying to do a show here and I have shit on my face and shit behind me fucking up the stream. Ah. Okay. At least it's hey, stop it. Stop it. Okay. Let's try adjusting this a bit more. Come on. Okay, I'm going to do 2 things. I'm moving around so much, I'm getting all burnt up in this jacket. I gotta take off the jacket. Okay, so that seems to be improving the situation. Situation is improving, just like in the Middle East. Okay. But I think you guys get the point of what I'm trying to say here when it comes down to, hey, hopefully things get turned back on. What's that yellow shit in the sky? What's that yellow shit in the sky? Oh, man. Yeah, it's just another missile. It's another missile in the sky. At least that's what I think the reference is. Okay, so let's keep going down the list here. Trump acknowledges what the Iranians are saying. The Saudis are saying, hey, we gotta do some joint military ops here with the Saudis and the Pakistanis working on that together. If you want an example of why Trump said, actually, why the Ayatollah's family should not be allowed to run the transitory government, because now we have this guy who's the current president, and he might likely end up being the transitory president if he's kept alive and issues an actual surrender. If this guy is willing to surrender, he will end up being the leader of Iran, at least for a transitory government. Whoever is the person who waves the white flag of for Iran will likely be the leader of Iran for a good bit. So Trump might be okay with this guy, but he is sure as hell not okay with the Ayatollah or his family, because they're not good for nat gas prices. They're not good for nat gas prices. But this is what the Ayatollah's grandson is saying. And the people want this guy to also try and run and become the Ayatollah. The Ayatollah's son, I actually genuinely don't know if he's alive or not, but I did see reports of people in Iran trying to say, oh, let's make the Ayatollah's son the leader. And then Trump saying, no, we're not going to do that. So this is the grandson of the Ayatollah, Khomeini. The Israelis know full well that if a day comes when any Islamic nation is capable of firing missiles at Iran or at Israel and striking Israel, and if they are capable of erasing Israel, They will
مع إسرائيل
do to
ما
Israel
فعله
what
حماس.
Hamas did to it.
كل الشعوب الإسلامية.
كل
All
الشعوب
the Islamic nations, all of them.
اليوم إذا نرى
Today,
أن بعض
we
الدول
see that
المنطقة
some countries in the
لا
region
يعملون
are not
بواجبهم،
fulfilling their duty,
لعلهم يقولون
saying
حتماً
that
يقولون
they are
نحن
incapable of
لسنا
doing so.
بقادرين على ذلك. وإسرائيل يعلم
Israel knows,
والأمريكا
America
يعلم،
knows,
والقادة
and the leaders
الدول
of the
الكبرى
superpowers
يعلمون
know
أن الدول
that if a
الإسلامية
day
إذا
comes when the
نهار
Islamic countries
إذا
are capable
جاء
of
يوم
bombing
وهم
Israel,
قادرون على قصف إسرائيل سيقصفون.
they
الدول
will do
الخليجية.
it.
الدول
You mean the Gulf
كل-
countries, the
كل
Arab
الشعوب
countries,
الإسلامية.
all the Muslim
نحن لا
nations.
نخاف
We
أصلاً،
are not afraid of them at all
لأنه
because we are
نحن
steadfast.
نحن
We are
ندافع
defending
الحق
our right and our country, our
وندافع
rights and
عن
our country.
بلدنا ونقول
We say to the Americans,
أنتم
you will die before you
ولا
see us
ترون
humiliated.
أدلتنا.
It's very funny because now they're fucking dead. And we will keep bombing the shit out of them until they surrender or they are dead. That's how this is going to go. That's how it's expected to go. And if it doesn't go that way, the bombings will get even more intense until the United States and Israel have a non-Islamic Republic regime running Iran, and that the Islamic Republic is removed from the face of the earth. It is not coming back to power. And just listen to this guy. Listen to this guy. Wants to destroy Israel and wants to destroy the United States. And it seems like he wants to make sure everyone else in the Middle East is on the same page. And right now, it's the exact opposite. Everyone in the Middle East is pretty much saying, no, fuck you, Iran. Fuck you. Because you're shooting at us. You're shooting at us. You're blowing our shit up. And you're causing massive economic pain and a massive economic crisis. So fuck you. Get out of power. Surrender. And you can see the other Middle Eastern countries now are starting to cooperate with each other to figure out how to accomplish that externally outside of just what the United States is doing and Israel is doing. When I went outside after a long coding session, oh my god. Yeah, when you come out of the cave first for a bit, and the sun kind of blinds you and forget what it is for a moment. But it does fit though. Yep. All right, let's keep on. So that's why Trump is not going to let anyone from the Ayatollah's family come back into power. Oh my God, I thought I fixed this issue. Oh, well, we'll just work with it. It's not like it's the end of the world here. It is for the Islamic Republic. These are the last set of Iran ballistic missile and drone stats that I caught. Now, this was earlier last night. So these are the stats. US and Israel strikes against Iran. And you can see most of them happened on March 4th. And there's been a lot happening here on March 6th. And then you can see where all the attacks have occurred. A lot of them have happened in Tehran. But also, get this, a lot of them are here on the border between Iraq and I believe Turkey. There's a lot of these attacks here. And we'll be going over this when we go over a few updates about the Kurds, but it seems like this is the quote-unquote air cover that the United States is trying to provide to get the Kurds to go into Iran, saying, hey, we'll blow up all the IRGC stuff here in Iran and make it easy for you to go in. However, we're going to be listening to what the Kurds actually have to say about this in a moment. And then you can see here, there were some attacks in Baghdad. And then you can see that's where Kuwait is. Iran, likely Iran-backed militias. So there were some attacks in Saudi, some attacks in Jordan. And then some Iraqi militias backed by Iran here in Baghdad. Iran has continued to launch missiles and drones targeting U.S. bases, Gulf states, and other Middle Eastern countries. That's from March 5th to March 6th. And then this is the number. This is the important thing to be watching. Now, there hasn't been an update to this chart yet. We want to see March 6th and March 7th, but today is the 7th, so we're just looking for data from March 6th. Here are what I believe are going to be the latest stats. Yeah, we don't have the missile number, but you can see we have more attacks on bases. New Iran continued drone and ballistic missile attacks on Gulf states despite the president's order to suspend strikes. Oh, that's not good. Oh, that's not good. Oh, that's really bad that the Iranian, I mean, look, it was already established within like 72 hours of the attack that the IRGC was effectively acting as isolated independent units. So just because the president of Iran is issuing an order, given that information doesn't necessarily mean that the rest of the Iranian military is actually going to even get the message. So even though, I mean, before the president sent out that message, he should have properly consolidated and set up communication with the rest of these, but the rest of these units that have been isolated, that have access to ballistic missiles and are given orders effectively to launch them. So Iran has conducted at least 6 ballistic missile barrages targeting Israel. Okay, well, that was not in the president's orders. Attacking Israel was on the table. Attacking U.S. assets is on the table. Excuse me. The combined U.S. and Israeli force has continued to target Baji bases in Tehran to degrade the regime's ability to maintain domestic control. The combined force struck 2 Artesh air bases in Isfahan province on March 7th to suppress and destroy Iranian air defense over the province and extend air dominance into central Iran. So this is Isfahan. This is just something getting blown up here, it looks like. It doesn't look like something. It just looks like a missile hit the ground. Maybe something underneath. And then this is an update from March 6th to March 7th of attacks in the UAE. Iran launched drones targeting Dubai International Airport and another port, seaport in the UAE. And then Saudi Arabia reported intercepted Iranian drones and missiles targeting Prince Sultan Air Base and Shabaa oil field. Okay, that's fucking bad. That's bad. Iran has launched at least 5 waves of ballistic missile attacks targeting Israel over here. So they're still going. They're still going, even though they've been told to back off. And then these, we'll be going over these. We got footage of this shit. There's all of these attacks that the U.S. has been doing on Tehran. And you can see it's just bombings everywhere. Targeted headquarters and then Baji headquarters. All these places are getting attacked. All these places are getting hit. So right now, Tehran is kind of up in smokes. Iran continued drone and ballistic missile attacks. Iran has also conducted at least 6 ballistic missile attacks. Yeah, we just read that. And then here's the overall picture. You can see that the dots in Tehran have become a lot more dense to the point where they had to make a little mini map. Oh, also, I believe I do. Yeah, cool. I have my stuff back. I actually need one. This is a pen tool, so then we can draw stuff. So what I'm looking for is clear canvas, which is E. There we go. Cool. And I'll keep that in mind for later when I need stuff to draw, because we're going to be using this from now on. It's going to help with illustrating a few points here. Okay, let's continue on. South Korea actually sent ballistic missile interceptors that are now in the UAE. And you can see that's what they look like. Yeah. Whew. Serious stuff. Stats for the U.S. to replenish their weapons being used on Iran. Fascinating. Oh, I gotta move forward here because there's people speaking music. Fascinating on the critical minerals consumed in U.S. weapons in the past week and the time it will take to replenish those. Gallium is a particular concern. So months needed to replace expended weapons. And it looks like a lot of months. A lot. And then months to replenish at the current rate. So it actually looks worse for Tomahawk missiles, for Arrow 2 and 3, David Sling, Rampage supersonic missiles. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that's going to take a bit longer to do. It will take 5 to 8 years for Raytheon to build a new radar at a cost of $1.1 billion. Meanwhile, Lockheed Martin will require at least 12 to 24 months and an estimated 50 million to 75 million to replace whatever this is. The biggest issue in defense industrial space will be sourcing the 703 kilograms of gallium needed for both systems, a material for which China controls 98% of the global supply. This is not to mention the 30,610 kilograms of copper that will also be needed. Oh my god. Holy smokes. Okay, that's news to me. That is expensive. Those are expensive explosives. Okay. And the USS Gerald R. Ford is now in the Red Sea to help with air defense, which is very, very good news, which also means more bombings coming from the south up into Iran from the coast. And underground bombings are still happening. So this is a strike at an underground IRGC base. And yeah, that is a huge cloud there. Look at that. So yeah. You know how you can tell that this person is over the age of 30 is because he starts recording vertically and then he's like, oh, no, wait, I have to do it horizontally now because people get mad at me if I do vertical video still. Remember when that was a thing? When people would get their phones and you'd get yelled at if you did vertical video. And now, people are just doing vertical video. I'm like, wait, I need to do things sideways. Otherwise, people get mad at me. But in this situation, it's actually better portrait-wise. So then you can see more of the horizon, more of the horizontal view. Just to actually see the area of impact versus sometimes just how big the cloud is more important. Okay. Oh. And then there's even, here are some of the bombings that are occurring in Tehran. They are saying that this hit the infamous place where they used to suppress protests and beat down demonstrators. A lot of reports like that. Fuck, I would not want to be in the traffic right next to there. There's cars going right by that building. I would not want to be there. Holy shit. Just holy shit. And then let's see here. A map of. Oh, yeah. Oh, 1 second. Map of the Tehran bombings. So this is just the same map showing the bombings that we were just looking at, but this time from the Institute for the Study of War. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next one. This is another strike in Karaj. Huge smoke trail. IRGC has been building a military installation behind an automobile manufacturing complex in Karaj, and the U.S. forces are destroying it. Yeah, so Tehran right now is up in flames. And then this is a video of the U.S. launching missiles from Bahrain. Okay, first video of the U.S. using its new precision strike missile in battle. The video shows a HIMARS system in Bahrain firing the PRSM at targets in Iran across the Persian Gulf. So I wonder why we haven't seen Bahrain hit in that map, in those maps we were looking at earlier. The weapon system is a next-generation surface ballistic missile designed to replace the aging ATACMS. It has a range of 500 kilometers compared to 300 for HIMARS, with future versions planned for 1,000 kilometers. Payload is 200 pounds, 91 kilograms, high explosive fragmentation, very warhead. And then here's a CRAM. Here's a CRAM doing its job. The thing that goes brrrr. Oh man, there's tons of memes about Warhogs doing that. It's fucking scary, dude. Those are big ass bullets. Draw-dropping footage captures America's CRAM system firing back at reported drone and missile fire near the U.S. Embassy complex in Baghdad, Iraq. Well, we actually saw attacks were in Baghdad for Iran-linked Iraqi militias. The sound is definitely insane. The potential energy... So now we're going to get into some commodity stuff. Potential energy crisis in Asia, especially for India. It is primarily an Asian. This is a. I think yeah, we're still in the section for Iran, so we're gonna keep going over this. Energy supplied issue if this drags on for a long time, especially India, will suffer already for 3 to 4 weeks. So Strait of Hormuz closed. Partial supply loss for the Eurozone. You can see huge natural gas hit, huge oil hit, huge gas hit. The United States, pretty big hit there. China, Japan, India. This is survival time, by the way. Days until stocks are depleted. So the United States has stocks for years and years and years to come. The Eurozone is just fine on its stocks, but India, what's that? 23 days of natural gas stocks, 49 days of gasoline stocks, 145 days of oil stock. And the South Koreans and the Japanese are kind of in the same boat when it comes to gasoline and a bit of nat gas, but it seems like they got good reserves. And Japan announced that they were totally willing to use their oil reserves in this situation in order to keep the price of oil down for them. And China seems to be okay, but they don't want price increases over there either. And we can continue on. Yeah, and this is why. Because India is in this precarious situation, this is why the U.S. Treasury has temporarily lifted sanctions. Oh, that's the wrong one. They temporarily lifted sanctions on Russia so then they can export their oil to India, and India can be allowed to buy it temporarily for the next month. And then this is actually from today. This is unlisted now, so you can't just find this on the White House's YouTube channel. But somewhere around here, I believe it's at this timestamp right here. And I'll turn off the music for this to make it as easy as possible to hear. But Trump actually covers a reporter on Air Force One who asks him about this specifically.
Moves to temporarily allow certain Russian oil sales to India. Are you considering any other moves, including the SPR?
There were some.
So, is Trump considering any other measures on top of allowing India to get Russian oil, like getting oil from the SPR?
Some I would do it just to take a little of the pressure off, but I think that the oil pressure. But there's a lot of oil. We've got a lot of oil. Our country has a tremendous amount, and we have. There's a lot of oil out there. That'll get healed very quickly.
Would you consider using the SPR or tapping into the SPR at some point?
Strategic reserve?
Yeah.
Well, I'm the one that built them up. Biden used them so that he could get some extra votes in the election. It turned out it wasn't even him that ran. It was Kamala. And she obviously didn't get any extra votes because we won in an absolute landslide. So he should have used it for that. He used it to get... I filled it up, and he brought it down.
So it seems like Trump... I'm just going to go on to the next point, because it seems like Trump is simply saying, yeah, Biden used the SPR, and we don't have the SPR filled up for our use as a tool here. It seems like that's what he is saying in that regard. But it's not just oil and gas. The Middle East is the second largest fertilizer exporter. And we can go ahead and look at a few things here. There's a bunch of nitrogen plants in Iran. There's highly vulnerable port terminals here around Saudi Arabia, Arab Emirates. And then most of the fertilizer comes from Saudi Arabia. Yeah, a lot of it comes from Saudi Arabia. So would not be surprised to see, yeah, fertilizer exports breakdown by selected countries in 2024. Nitrogen, a lot of it came from Oman, Iran, Qatar, the UAE, and KSA. Nitrogen products account for 1/3 of the global fertilizer imports. Yeah, nitrogen right there. And then where does all this nitrogen go to? It goes to India, Brazil, to the United States, and Australia. For Saudi Arabia, product 3105, phosphate. I think I just got a report actually from S&P Global that they were doing something regarding this market here, that they were actually shutting this down until the war ended. Yeah, S&P Global, I received something from them here on this phosphate. That they're not going to be reporting any prices for a while here on this particular product specifically. So that's going to be a problem, especially for India and the US, because Saudis send a lot, most of it, to India and the United States. And also to Australia. That says 21%. That bar should be much bigger. Okay. Oh, man. I wonder if there's a fertilizer chart. Let me do a quick little search and see if I can find fertilizer charts here, specifically for nitrogen. What are the trading tickers for nitrogen? Okay, let's see here. It's company stocks and then specific fertilizer futures. UFV. Holy shit. Okay, I have to turn that into a line chart. Look at that. Fuck. Fuck. That's not good. This makes food really expensive. So fertilizer is up 24%. Holy smokes. From $457 to a contract to $580. I mean, maybe this is an index price, but it says US dollars on the side. Let's see here. And then there's another one. Trax urea ammonium. And so this is urea prices, a key nitrogen fertilizer. 10-ton urea US Gulf futures, MFV. Yeah, it's done exactly the same thing. It's gone. Yeah, so the first chart is exactly the same, UFV. But this is, yeah, US Gulf futures. But the other one was 10 tons. So this is exactly the same. Holy shit. That's a problem. That's a problem. Man. I'm gonna go turn on the air conditioning because it's getting just a tad hot in here. So give me 1 sec. Okay, and I see that the screen was freaking out behind me. Stop that. Stop that. Oh, man. Dude. I gotta figure out a solution for that. You know, it's kind of hard to imagine. I mean, I really don't know any other analyst who's doing stuff like this, at least on YouTube, where it's like, hey, here's shit that's going on in the world. And here's things that are being impacted by all this stuff going on in Iran. Oh, let's actually go look at the chart and let's actually go look at the prices of how this is moving. It's not so hard. Man, this is shit. I mean, it's a blue screen, but okay. Hopefully that helps reduce the noise behind me. Shit, I gotta figure out why it's going bananas here. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. We're gonna move on. We're gonna move on because that's what matters. We're just gonna move the hell on. Okay. So that was interesting on the fertilizer end. Holy shit, did not know price moved that much on fertilizers, but when you see the impact, it totally makes sense. Okay. Now we're going on to a new section, and this section is for Kurdistan updates. So right here, Bafil Talabini reports on a conversation he had with Trump, and he confirms no cross-border operation into Iran. Now, it's an 8-minute clip. I'm not going to watch the whole thing here, but I am going to read these things here. He confirms he spoke to Donald Trump. He was very charming and very calm about his call with Iran's foreign minister. He was very disappointed. He rejects any Iranian Kurds have crossed the border into Iran, saying, quote, most of the effective fighting forces are outside Iran and on the border. A subtle reference to the PJAK. On regime change, he says, at the moment, it doesn't, at the moment, doesn't look on the cards. Some words missing there in that sentence. We have seen no uprisings anywhere. We have seen nothing of that. On the operation in general, it's early days. I expect this operation to be long and very difficult. He also says if Kurdish fighters enter Iran, Turkey will have legitimate concerns, and therefore you'll have Turkish interventions against Kurdish troops. Okay, that's another complication there. Which I'll right now say it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that the United States would be bombing this side of Iran so heavily if they weren't trying to get the Kurds involved in order to take down a lot of the major targets to significantly soften up the IRGC. And we can click on this and you can see main targets in West Azerbaijan. And then some targets here. You can just see all these military targets. Yeah. Number of events. And yeah, so there's a hot spot over here and a hot spot right here. So yeah. They're trying to give apparently the Kurds some cover to go in right now, it seems. And this is as of March 6th. Now, I want to give a little bit of background on what the Kurds want. And in my research, I actually found this. All major Kurdish political parties have formed a new coalition called the Coalition of Kurdistan Parties. The Kurds of Iran stand united. For the first time, all major Kurdish parties have come together as one in a new coalition, a historic step forward, shaping a new future for Kurds and a democratic Iran. That was March 5th. But it turns out this is when an extra party joined the coalition. The coalition was actually created February 22nd. A Kurdish political and military leader calls for Kurds to unify with a secular Iran. This is the guy, PAK leader. Kurds are not separatists, but rather a side seeking unity. In short summary, Kurds do not want to separate from Iran. They want to live together with a democratic and secular Iran with equal rights. And I believe Netanyahu did come out and say he doesn't want to see a balkanized Iran either. He wants Iran effectively to stay whole. He just wants regime change. And then the same leader, this same guy here, who kind of looks a bit like Stalin with that stash and that do, the same leader posted videos of dead protesters back in January calling on Trump to actually intervene. And I get a graphic content warning. This is showing, I had pre-watched this, and it shows a video of just bodies on the floor and people missing parts of their head and limbs missing. It's graphic, and there's body bags everywhere. It's like a big gymnasium, and there's just bodies fucking everywhere. Everywhere. It looked like COVID. When there were body bags in China, and a few places, there were videos of those Chinese body bags in all those places, just being piled up. It looked like fucking a COVID video. That's what it looked like to me. It looked like a COVID video. That's how bad this is. I'm not going to play it. Don't worry, I'm not going to play it. But that's what this guy was saying when the protests were going. This is January 12th, 2026. And he was saying, Trump, please pay attention to this. And I believe this guy was trying to get Trump to intervene. Now, that coalition of Kurdistani political parties, they made an announcement 6 days before Operation Epic Fury, saying, hey, we are all coming together. And this is saying, hey, for decades, we are undersigning political parties of this new coalition. The main purpose of this coalition is to exchange our views and to have greater unity for the struggle of the Kurdish people. I'm going to zoom in for this part. Our main and shared objectives in this alliance are to struggle for the overthrow of the Islamic Republic of Iran, to achieve the Kurdish people's right to self-determination, and to establish a national and democratic entity based on the political will of the Kurdish nation in Iranian Kurdistan. We stand in support of the nationwide struggles of other nations of Iran against the Islamic Republic. In this phase, we emphasize the necessity of political and field coordination, so that's military, as well as joint between the political parties and civil organizations of Iranian Kurdistan and those of the other parts of Iran, alongside advocating for the formation of a comprehensive and democratic transitional period. The foundation of any cooperation and alliance we form with other parties must be the official recognition of the national right of the people of Iran, the acceptance of democracy, and the rejection of all forms of dictatorship. So every political party who are part of the Kurds got together and said, Iran must go. The Islamic Republic must go, and there must be democracy there. And that is our main and shared objective of this alliance. I don't know about you, but when some military leader, this guy here, comes out and says, oh, we're not really wanting to go in. Oh, dude, every political party came together, and this is the main thing that they agreed on. And you're saying, oh, this is pussyfooting. You're just pussyfooting around and giving, frankly, the wrong signal. Now, he is right in saying, hey, if we go in, the Turks are going to be pissed. So that's something that's going to have to be watched out for and investigated. I don't know too much about that front. However, what I do know is that the Turks aren't so happy about the Kurds. They're not very happy with the Kurds. We won't go into it. We won't go into it too much. But to say that the Kurds won't go into Iran and assist, I think is not reasonable, given this And this was released on February 22nd, 6 days before Operation Epic Fury. So when Trump calls up the Kurds and says, hey, we're doing all this bombing here on the map, we took out some very heavy targets for you. Can you go in and clean up? I think the Kurds are leaning on the side of, yeah, we want to go in. Now, the Iranian Kurds, those are the political parties for the Iranian Kurds, supposedly, because they are saying Iranian everywhere. These are all Iranian. You're not saying Iraq anywhere. No hits for Iraq. So all the Kurds that are in Iraq, I don't know if they're going to go in or not. But given the Iranian Kurds are going in, likely, that's my expectation. Obviously, this guy is saying no, right? But again, it's a little hard to look at these huge declarations and say that the Kurds aren't going at some point to go into Iran. It's a bit hard, especially after the U.S. takes out a bunch of major targets for them effectively. Let's see here. And the Kurds are pretty stacked here. This is just an op group. This is a military operations group for Kurdistan. And this is, see, when you compare some of the videos we've looked at for the Iranian military and compare it just with the gear that the Kurds have, it looks like U.S. gear. It looks like these guys have, like this. These guys have M4s or M16s. This looks like U.S. gear. This looks like U.S. gear. And then compare it with the gear that the Iranians have. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if these guys had a bunch of night vision and had effectively their own Kurdistani spec ops and whatnot. These guys are getting equipment from the U.S., no doubt. No doubt. That's what it looks like to me. Okay. The section on Kurdistan is now over. We're now done talking about all the Kurdistani related things here. We're going to go ahead and close these. Oh, back to some pretty flowers. Oh, isn't it so nice? No war, just peace and love and harmony. And now, politics. Now, politics. So, what I have done in the last 24 hours, as I've been doing research for the weekly notes, is I have been setting up I've been creating new research threads. So we have a few new research threads in the research forum in the Plan the Profit Discord. If you want to get into this Discord so you can read these, it is free to get into this Discord. All you have to do is go to the link below, hop into the WAP, and you'll see a thing that says free Discord. Click on that, sign up. Prevents all the bots from coming in, so going through WAP is a nice bot filter. And once you're in, you should be able to check out the research forum from there. So we have a few elections coming up. We have a German election. If I scroll down here just a tad, we should see German state elections. And I can zoom in here. And I can squeeze this over a little bit so it's a little easier to see. So 2026 German state elections, we have 2 coming up. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, we can view the polling. So it looks like CDU and the Greens are likely to win this state in Germany. We're going to have to follow it. It's on March 8th. let's see here. I wish it was a little easier just to find out what's on the line. 154 seats were allocated due to such adjustments. Yeah. So how many seats are given to each party is going to be important to watch. And you can see here's the 2021 results. It's mostly been a location that the Greens win and the CDU mostly wins. SPD, FDP, and AFD usually do not get very many seats from this state in Germany. And then there's one more on the 22nd, Rhineland. And this is SPD, CDU, and AfD. And there's a lot of polling going on here for this one. So AfD is the blue one, SPD are the socialists, they're the red one, and CDU, which have been the primary leaders of Germany for a long, long time, they're the black one. And you can see SPD usually gets most of the seats for this one. Then it's the CDU, and this is the 2021 results. And this seems like, based on the polling, it's going to be a more even split between SPD, CDU, and AfD in the order of CDU, SPD, and AfD. That's the order it looks like that's going to take. And then these are the candidates. Let's see here. Okay. So we got elections coming up in Germany, but it's not just elections in Germany. There's also elections coming up in France. There's municipal elections in France. And I added a bit more of a summary here, and those municipal elections are coming on March 15th. And they seem to be 3 out of the 5 are expected to go towards right-leaning groups, and then 2 of the 5 are expected to go to left-leaning groups. Socialists are expected to win Paris, and right-leaning guys are expected to win Lyon, Nice, and Toulouse. Marlies is also left-leaning. So we're going to be watching this because there's still about another week's worth of time to the first round. And then there's a second round that has to be watched as well. And this is particularly important, especially for France. Because if I actually go to my notes here, the first round of French municipal elections occur on March 15th and the second round on the 22nd. The French Senate is determined by the number of people in the municipal elections. So the municipal elections determine the electors for the French Senate. It's like 95% of the Senate is confirmed or picked by these municipal elections. So half of the French Senate is up for election in September. And so what happens here is going to essentially set a really high precedent for what is likely to happen for the French Senate in September. So we're going to be watching this closely. And then in Spain, there's elections in Spain. There are Spanish regional elections here, also scheduled for March 15th. The People's Party are expected to win that. We can actually click here, click on that. And this is the People's Party candidate right here. And People's Party, region formed. Let's see here. People's Party. Actually, what's going on here? The electoral campaign was dominated by the outset of the Iran war, which saw the Prime Minister of Spain, Pedro Sanchez, openly reject both the unilateral military action of the United States and Israel and the IRGC's attacks against other Middle Eastern countries, calling for immediate de-escalation. Okay. This resulted in a direct clash between Trump, okay, and a possible embargo. Sanchez responded by doubling down on his no war position, while the opposition, PP and Vox, initially aligned themselves with the U.S. and Israel in support of the conflict. So these two right here, the blue ones and the green ones, are against the Prime Minister of Spain. And right now, oh wow. I mean, we'll just go straight to the polling, I guess. So the People's Party here in blue and Vox right here are both gaining against the PSOE, and I believe those are the socialists, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Socialist Party of Castile and Leon, the PSOE. Part of the Spanish Socialist Workers' Party. That's what the PSOE stands for. And then this is People's Party of Spain, which is the Christian Democratic Party of Spain. So, and then Vox is, I believe, the Nationalists, right? Yeah, the National Conservatives and the centrist conservatives are gaining on the socialists in Spain in the upcoming election, as per the polls here. And Vox, the nationalist conservatives, have been gaining since May. It seems like they've gone from like 14%, 13% to just under 20%. While the socialists and the conservatives have not been gaining since that point. So the popularity for Vox has been increasing in Spain on that front, and we'll be watching what happens going into the election, because there's another regional election happening in May and June. Now, that's not all happening in Europe. There's also elections, or referendums, rather, happening in Italy. Real quick. Italian constitutional referendum. And we can just pull up the Wikipedia page for this. A constitutional referendum concerning the reform of the judicial system in Italy is happening on the 22nd and 23rd of March. And essentially, if I can recall correctly what it's about, it is that the judiciary is split between the between the judges and the public prosecutors. So right now, the judges and the prosecutors are both in the same branch of government, and this is a reformation to make them distinct and separate. Because I don't know, I haven't read this whole thing on the background yet, but my assumption is that the Prime Minister, actually, of Italy wants to do this in order, because there's been some kind of corruption between conspiracies between judges and prosecutors, some corruption in Italy because of this. And it seems like this is very close based off the polling. Let's see here. Oh my god, this is such a big one. Opinion polls. Yeah, you can see it's very close. It's like 55, 45, depending on who you poll. And as we get closer and closer, the polls keep flipping back and forth. 5 to 10 points. Really, I would love to see a professional pollster do some proper research on which of these polling firms actually has been accurate on Italian politics before, and just accuracy weigh these polls based off the performance of these pollsters. And you can see it. Poll aggregations are coming really close to 50-50. So this is going to be a coin flip. And if this doesn't pass, this will supposedly hurt Meloni, because Meloni's been putting a lot of political capital on this in part of a rule of law campaign. So I hope Meloni gets what she wants here. I hope that that's what happens. Again, I don't know too much, but if Maloney is asking for it, I'm of the camp of, okay, Maloney's been generally pretty good, in my opinion, from the point of view of a U.S. citizen. But I don't know the specifics, and I'd actually would love to talk to some Italians about this specifically. If there's any people who are Italian watching this, who know more about this than I do. So I'd love to learn more about the background about this, because, you know, there's only so much information that you can get off of Wikipedia on this front. I will go through it, right? You know, prompted by the government of Maloney, introduced a structural amendment, right? So I would definitely like to see if there's any Italians watching who'd be interested in helping me learn a bit more about this. So that's Italy. And then there's also stuff going on in Switzerland. There are Swiss referendums as well. And this one's actually kind of unique. This one, there's 4 referendums up, but there's one referendum that's particularly unique. And it has to do with the Swiss franc. And it essentially says, hey, the Swiss franc will remain the currency of Switzerland, and it will be cash transactions will be protected by the Constitution, and that there will always be cash and coins in circulation for Switzerland. And we need enough. If you want to remove the Swiss franc as the currency of Switzerland, it will take another referendum. That's what I'm interested in the most when it comes down to the Swiss referendums, if that one passes. So if that one passes, I would like to see that pass. I think that having the Swiss franc be a sort of safe haven-ish asset is great. As much as maybe the SMB might not like having to deal with potentially going into negative rates, they're always so concerned about that. And they're especially concerned about that right now. A lot of rhetoric about trying to not go into negative rates for as long as possible over there at the SMB. Okay. Let's go down here. Okay. That section is now over. That was a whole section on just a bunch of European elections and a bunch of European referendums. That information will be useful, especially if you're looking at assets like the Swiss franc, CHF. And we can go ahead and save. Go back to candlestick charts. Just look at that. And we can turn off these yield spreads. Swiss franc gaining against the yen. If you do US dollar Swiss franc, it should be down, I think. Yeah, it actually popped. The dollar popped against the Swiss franc here, and now it's coming down. And then if we do euro Swissy, you can see that the euro has been just, since the start of the year, has been losing ground against the Swiss franc. It's been such an easy trade for the Swiss franc here. And this is one of the major reasons why going into negative rates is something that the S&P is considering, because these FX rates making the Swiss franc even stronger, makes it easier for Europe to do business in Switzerland, but not as easy. It gets at the margins for Swiss businesses, essentially, when these FX rates make the Swiss franc really strong. And you can look at maybe Aussie Swissy. Aussie's actually been getting stronger against the Swiss franc here. New Zealand Swissy. Not so much since February, it seems. It's been mostly sideways. And then you have, what else is there? We looked at yen, we looked at dollar, we looked at euro. We could do CAD Swissy. These are just the G7. And it looks like that the Canadian dollar has been in quite choppy waters with the Swiss franc, especially whatever the hell happened here. I don't know what happened here in the middle of January, what that was all about. Oh. Was this the tariffs? I think this was the tariffs. If I recall correctly, this was the tariffs. The IEEPA tariffs getting overturned. That's what happened here. So that's interesting. The CAD Swissy had a unique reaction to the IEEPA tariffs getting overturned. Okay. And Swiss franc got a lot stronger. Well, because as far as I recall, there were some IEEPA tariffs put on Switzerland at that time. But then why didn't all these other assets like Aussie, Swissy also have that nice rebound? I mean, it did. Swiss franc did get stronger here, but then Aussie kept like linearly getting stronger. So obviously there's something else going on there on the Canadian side of that pair. And then we can also just in general look at euro-dollar. So there's two things so far on the euro-dollar side, and you can see I'm quite actively charting this one. But let's remove those drawings for a second so we can just have the chart open. What I'm mostly looking at here and looking forward to as far as potential euro appreciation is two things. First, do we get a gap up when markets open now that we have this commentary from the president of Iran saying that he's not going to attack the other Middle Eastern countries unless they retaliate against Iran? Now, it seems like that individual units in the IRGC are not communicating with the president of Iran because attacks have occurred in Middle Eastern countries from the IRGC since the president of Iran made that statement. So it doesn't seem like there's a proper line of communication that's been established between the IRGC and the Iranian president in order to give these orders effectively. So should the Middle East trust the language and the words of the president of Iran, or should they still retaliate when they are attacked? But then you're playing this cat and mouse game of who has to stop shooting first. Is it these Middle Eastern countries that they do have a right to retaliate at the current moment? Or, I mean, the IRGC needs to get in communication with their president and receive the orders to stop shooting assets of Middle Eastern countries. Now, the president of Iran explicitly stated, at least I believe through omission, that targeting of Israeli and U.S. assets in the Middle East is still on the board, is still on the table, is still fair game. So it also becomes a matter of, is it possible that the IRGC can misidentify assets of Middle Eastern countries as Israeli and U.S. assets and then blow up the offer that the Iranian president actually made? That potential misinterpretation, and likely misinterpretation, frankly, is going to be a huge problem for establishing any level of even subtle peace that can occur to reestablish the traffic for VLCCs, oil tankers, gas tankers, through the Strait of Hormuz into the Persian Gulf to pick up commodities and take them out to Europe and China and India. There's a lot of countries that need that oil and gas, and it would be great if we could just take the president of Iran's word for his word. But there needs to be something made much more explicit. Now, in response to what the Iranian president said, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, came out and explicitly said, okay, you are getting closer to what I want, which is complete and total surrender. And until you do, we're going to continue to bomb the hell out of you until you either surrender or you're completely gone, until the Islamic regime is completely gone. And that seems like an escalation to me from the US's side as far as rhetoric goes. And given the uncertainty I just laid out about the communication from this cat and mouse game of who stops shooting first in Iran when it comes down to the offer the Iranian president made, saying, oh, we're not going to attack Middle Eastern countries, we just want to attack U.S. and Israeli assets, and then the potential misidentification of those assets for Middle Eastern assets that are actually Middle Eastern country assets, it can end up being another layer of confusion in this quagmire. For what countries do agree to go with following the presidents of Iran's word and then potentially get hit still, they're not going to be very happy with the president of Iran. But the president of Iran is also in a very unique situation right now, because if he actually did declare complete and unconditional surrender of the Islamic Republic to the United States and Israel, he would effectively become the leader of the transitory government for Iran. And arguably, I don't know if he would be the best pick or not. We don't necessarily know if especially the U.S. administration would approve of it, just like they explicitly did not approve of the Ayatollah's family, either his son or his grandson, becoming the next leaders of a transitory Iranian government, because they're just too radical, right? So there's a bunch of stuff to take into account there. And what it means ultimately for an asset like Eurodollar is there's still a lot of uncertainty as to whether or not we actually gap up or not. We're going to have to see some kind of much firmer commitment from the Iranian side, because we can't totally take the president's word at face value yet, especially when there's this abrupt break or not complete connection as far as communication goes with IRGC groups across Iran. If that communication was very adequately established, and let's say the Iranian president said, we'll lob off the heads of anyone who doesn't follow these orders to the T, and then the consequence of that is going to be less drone and missile strikes hitting Middle Eastern countries that are trying to export energy commodities, oil and gas, through the Persian Gulf and through the Strait of Hormuz, which would allow traffic to go through again. Because remember, a lot of those ships are assets of these Middle Eastern countries, and also of countries that are explicitly not at war also with Iran, like India and China. I doubt that they want to attack those guys. They might attack ships for the U.S. They might attack European vessels. But a lot of ships want to go through, and the people who are likely to get hurt the most right now, as far as an energy crisis go, is actually India and China, and again, Europe to an extent. But if India and China come online, a lot of I expect some ships that go through the strait into the Persian Gulf to pick up commodities, energy commodities, will go still to Europe, because people are paying a pretty penny right now for those ships and for those deliveries. And we have pretty much up until next week to figure this out, because past next week, a lot of supply, a lot of oil and nat gas supply is going to run into storage constraints in these Middle Eastern countries. If we go past next week, we're going to end up with not enough storage, and these countries that run out of storage are going to have to turn off even more oil and gas production. Qatar already shut off a huge LNG liquefaction facility. And that alone is hurt natural gas significantly. If you just look at the chart here for, it's TTF. If you look at the chart here for TTF, that's the wrong one. TTF futures. Okay, here's the correct chart. If you look at the chart for TTF futures, nat gas went up 70% because of mostly the closure for the Strait of Hormuz into the Persian Gulf, but especially after it was announced by Qatar that they were shutting off liquid natural gas facilities until the conflict was resolved. And we are getting closer to the end, it seems here, because of what the Iranian president said. Hey, we don't want to attack our Middle Eastern buddies. And Qatar is a Middle Eastern country. As long as the president of Iran can keep his word and follow through on his word and actually enforce that in the IRGC, then the likelihood that ships start going and offloading stored nat gas and oil from these Middle Eastern countries beginning next week becomes more likely. We'll have to see. We will have to see. But in the meantime, the USS Gerald Ford cruiser is now in the Red Sea, and the US could start doing more bombings into the southern half of Iran, because a lot of the issue right now are missiles and drones. And if more missile and drone production and storage facilities are blown up, then it becomes safer and safer and safer for ships to start going through the strait. We'll also have to follow up next week on how the insurance plans are going, what the insurance rates are looking like, what ships are able to get insurance, what ships are willing to go through the strait. Given all the current information that we have at that time, we'll have to see. There's a lot of ships right now waiting just outside of the strait, waiting to get the green light to go. Everyone's got a yellow or a red light, and a lot of those guys with yellow lights are just waiting for the moment things are all clear. That was a good rant. That was a whole section in and of itself. So now, there is a whole nother section, whole nother bit of research I did. I spent a lot of time doing research into the late night burning the midnight oil, and I wanted to find out what these posts were about Orban and Zelensky kind of going at each other over their own oil dispute. So I went and I found that there's actually a Wikipedia page on this called the Slovak-Ukraine Oil Dispute. And boy, is this kind of insane here. So first, I'm just going to show you some videos here. We're going to start a new section now, right? So this is the Slovak-Ukraine oil dispute section. So just some background. Zelensky and Orban have been going at each other's throats since the Russia-Ukraine war began, because Orban has blocked many bills that would have paid for Ukrainian military aid. And recently, a oil pipeline was either disabled or turned off. Both sides have their own story. And right now, Slovakia and Hungary really want oil, and it doesn't seem like the Ukrainians are either willing or able to give them that oil. On February 26th, Orban asked Zelensky formally to open up a pipeline 2 days before Operation Epic Fury began. Mr. President, referring to Zelensky, For 4 years, you have been unable to accept the position. Let's see here. Regarding Russia-Ukraine war. For 4 years, you have been working to force Hungary into the war. It doesn't want to join between your country and Russia. During that time, you have received support from businesses and secured the backing of the Hungarian opposition, his opponents. We also see that you, Brussels, and the Hungarian opposition are coordinating efforts to bring a pro-Ukraine government to power in Hungary. In recent days, you have blocked the Friendship Oil Pipeline. They actually call it that. Which, I just have to say, it's incredibly funny how some of the most unfriendly geopolitics right now is over the Friendship Oil Pipeline. It just tickles my fancy here. And that oil pipeline, which is critical to Hungary's energy supply. And we can unmute that dude. And it endangers the security and affordability of energy supply for Hungarian families. I therefore call on you to change your anti-Hungarian policy. We, the Hungarian people, are now responsible for the situation in which Ukraine finds itself. We sympathize with the Ukrainian people, but we do not wish to participate in the war. We do not want to finance the war effort, and we do not want to pay more for energy. I urge you to immediately reopen the Friendship Oil Pipeline and refrain from any further attacks on Hungary's energy security. More respect for Hungary. Okay. So that's what he said 2 days before Operation Epic Fury. Then, when Operation Epic Fury began, Orbán asked Zelensky to reopen the Friendship Oil Pipeline. It definitely affects us. You could say that certain Iran supplies a large amount of oil to the world. And there is a war. The second is that Iran controls a very important maritime passage. Whether it can control or possibly block it during or after the war, we do not know. But what does, much less oil will reach the world market, which will drive prices up. And we must find a way to mitigate this. This is why cheap oil coming from Russia through the Friendship Oil Pipeline is so important. We are facing a serious war, which will paralyze oil production there and also make transport more difficult. It is very likely that the importance of the Friendship Oil Pipeline will double because of the Iranian war. Okay. So that's what happened. That's what Orbán said when Operation Epic Fury began. Then the next day, March 1st, Orbán then claims that Zelensky is not opening the pipeline because he wants Orbán to lose the upcoming election, like he said in the very first video.
Nemzeti magyar kormány eltakarítani akaró szándék húzódik meg. Persze vannak Brüsszelben, akik naívak, és vannak, akik ravaszak.
Yeah, it's
ezeket a szálakat gombolítják, fonják, kötik, alakítják.
Yeah, and they're saying Von Maiden is also involved in this.
Egy olyan csatát kell megvívnunk, ahol egyszerre kell legyőzni.
We have to defeat the opposition, the TISA party. We have to defeat the Zelensky and Ursula. Okay. And that's that. That's what he posted at a rally. Orbán says satellites prove no damage to the pipeline. We'll make the satellite images available so everyone can see them. You started the day this morning with the national security briefing. I received a detailed report on the attack, the Friendship Oil Pipeline, on the condition of the pipeline. Based on the satellite images and operational information available to us, it is clear that the Friendship Oil Pipeline is operational. We also established that the attack did not directly affect the pipeline. Therefore, there is no technical obstacle to restarting it. The relevant satellite images will be made public. so that everyone can see them. Once again, we call on President Zelensky to restart the friendship pipeline. And in order to close this dispute to allow the Hungarian and Slovak inspectors to enter, we will maintain our countermeasures for as long as the Ukrainians do not resume oil deliveries. That President Zelensky is doing this plain blackmail against Hungary, but Hungary will not give in, and we will not break this oil blockade. And we will break this oil blockade. Okay. And then Orban sends a letter to von der Leyen. A big, long letter. In the past week, together with Slovakia, we attempted to find a solution through diplomatic channels. Among others, we proposed a fact-finding mission with the participation of experts from Hungary and Slovakia to assess the status of the pipeline in Ukraine. All our efforts were rejected, even though Ukraine's actions violate its legal obligations towards the European Union. We have no reason to believe that legal remedies under international and EU law would yield tangible results in restoring our energy supply in the short term. Therefore, I call on the European Commission to support Hungary in neutralizing the energy weapon used by Ukraine. I expect the European Commission to increase political pressure on Ukraine not to undermine the energy security of Hungary and Slovakia. I also expect the European Commission to force relevant provisions of the EU Ukraine Association Agreement. We do not accept foreign interference in our democratic processes, and we will repeal all such attempts. It is in this spirit. I would like to inform you that until Ukraine returns to normality, I am not in position to support any decision in the European Union that favors Ukraine. Okay. So over and above just blocking funds to aid the Ukrainian military efforts, to fund them from the European Union, he is now saying, okay, everything, I'm saying no to everything for Ukraine now. And a lot of Ukrainians would say, well, he's pretty much saying no to everything so far, so what's new? Now, this is the more concerning part. We have a video of Zelensky talking about sending troops to threaten Orban as a joke, but obviously it didn't come off as a joke. We hope one person in the EU won't block the 90 billion or the first tranche, and our soldiers will have weapons. Otherwise, we'll give this person's address to our armed forces, to our guys, let them call him, speak with him in their own language. To be honest, I wouldn't restore it. Russian oil pipeline is what he's referring to. That's my position. I told the European leaders and those who called me about this, and the EU leadership too, because this is Russian oil. There are some things and principles that will simply have no price. They're killing us, and we're supposed to give oil to Orban because the poor guy can't win elections without it. During this month and a half, renewal is possible if EU countries don't find another way to avoid blocking funds for Ukraine, for our military, just because we have to give Russian oil to Hungary and Slovakia. We'll prepare everything. And then the decision will be up to them. So he's willing to block it till effectively the end of April. Zelensky's willing to block the oil being sent to Hungary and Slovakia because it's Russian oil. He was willing to prevent that oil from going through all the way up to about middle of April, end of April. And that's not going to be so great because Oil prices are going through the roof right now, and Hungary and Slovakia want oil right now. I don't know what their reserves look like, what their storage looks like. But considering the rhetoric from Orban and Slovakia, because actually the Prime Minister of Slovakia reacted to this comment. And this is what he had to say. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for coming here to this place only at this moment, even though I have been in the cultural house for quite some time already. It's not appropriate for politicians to spoil a nice celebration, but I have to say something at the beginning, which is why I am now a few minutes late. About 5 minutes ago, I saw a shocking video of the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. We hope that one person in the EU will not block the 90 billion or the first tranche of the 90 billion, and that Ukrainian soldiers will have weapons. Otherwise, we will give this person's address to our armed forces, to our boys. Let them call him and communicate with him in their own language. A video in which he directly threatens the Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban, because the Hungarian government is currently blocking a 90 billion euro military loan for Ukraine. This is a loan in which we did not participate and will not participate, just like the Czech Republic and Hungary. It is unacceptable for President Zelensky to think that we are his servants and that we must do everything he expects. We help him. What was that? We help him in everything. On the contrary, he harms us. He caused us 500 million in damages when it comes to gas transit fees. Now he has stopped oil. He claims that the oil pipeline is damaged, although satellite images clearly confirm that this is not the case, and he even allowed himself to publicly say that he would give Viktor Orban's address to soldiers of the Ukrainian army, and that Viktor Orban would probably then understand the language that those soldiers would speak. This is crude blackmail. This is something that, regardless of the fact that there is a war in Ukraine, we must all reject. And I am using this opportunity because we always record these events so that we have proof that these are normal meetings. And I officially ask all the highest representatives of the European Union, and I will be very specific. President of the European Union, Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the European Council, Antonio Costa, and also the so-called EU Foreign Minister, Fair Chief Kaja Kallas, to distance themselves from these outrageous blackmailing statements of the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. He has also crossed all red lines, and we as a sovereign country, we must speak up, even though we do not have large armies and we do not have great economic power, but we have our sovereignty, we have our pride. And we fundamentally reject such behavior. Let this message go, the capital of the Slovak Republic, to all of Europe and the whole world. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to say this. Okay, so the Slovakian president's not happy about this. Orban's very mad about this. Zelensky is also very mad about this. And the European Council, the European Commission, condemned the rhetoric on both sides. They said, okay, both of you, stop. This type of language is not acceptable. There must not be threats against EU member states. You know, it's been going on for so long. Let's just remember what this is about. This is about a pipeline right now. This is about a pipeline that is being cut off. Here's the Wikipedia page on it. Here's the pipeline. This is what I got the drawing tools for. But Brussels has come out yesterday and said, yeah, what Orban, we don't like his rhetoric. But we also denounce what Zelensky said as well. And then they're also bringing up this cargo. We actually had the video of this on stream, that there was all this money and gold, and there were ex-Ukrainian intelligence officials helping move cargo in gold and cash from Hungary into Ukraine. Still don't know exactly what that's about. We are in active discussions on all sides on this question. Let's see here. European Council President Antonio Costa is also involved in the outreach to ease tensions between Orban and Zelensky and ensure the delicate agreement reached by the 27 leaders in December comes to fruition. And I believe, what was that? December. Yeah. Orban has vetoed a $90 billion loan that 27 EU leaders have agreed to sign off on. Now, it doesn't seem like Orban is willing to really sign it at any price. It doesn't look like that. The fact that Orban is trailing in opinion polls ahead of the Hungarian election on April 12th is further complicating diplomacy. Officials worry that the longer the row drags on and the closer it gets to April 12th, the harder it will be to untangle. Initially, Brussels has operated under the assumption that Kyiv would need a fresh injection of money in early April, but the timeline could now slip. Last week, von der Leyen said last week she had options to unblock the $90 billion loan, but her executive has yet to spell out what those options might look like. Meanwhile, the Commission chief has received an invitation to meet with the Slovakian Prime Minister, and a date is being considered. So things are moving forward on that front, and there's a lot of issues that can easily arise from this. Let's see here. Now, Zelensky said, hey, you guys should get your oil from Croatia. Hey, the Prime Minister of Croatia showed me how the same volume that Slovakia and Hungary need for a year as far as oil goes, by the way, he can provide. Croatia can. He is ready to supply. He says Orban simply doesn't really want to buy. I asked him why. Well, because here it's the European price, and there it's the Russian price. Someone is making money, it's clear who. Well, this is a bit disingenuous because it's not trivially cheap. Russian oil is significantly cheaper on this front here. So Orban wanted oil. He was offered oil at a really high price. And Orban, we saw a video of him complaining about it. 500 million euro in some kind of fee. My mind is kind of blanking on exactly what Orban said there. Let's see here. There's protests in Hungary right now outside the Ukrainian embassy. Mass protests outside the Ukrainian embassy in Budapest after Zelensky threatened Orban. Hungarian patriots gather in front of the embassy to protest Ukraine's blackmail and threats against Hungary. And then there's another video of the protests. That doesn't sound very pretty. That doesn't sound good. Like, okay, I respect people who are expressing their right to protest. That doesn't sound good. That doesn't sound musical. That doesn't sound nice. Like, if you're going to sing at a big protest, get the singer. Get a singer to do the singing. That doesn't sound good. That doesn't... Again, respect people's right to protest, especially when they're doing so very peacefully. But what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of cover this map here to get an idea of what exactly the hell is going on. Okay. So I'm going to, over here, open this, which has a nice little explanation for me on the side. Okay. So let's do this. So the 2024 Slovak-Ukraine oil dispute centers on the halt of Russian crude oil through the southern branch of the Druzhba pipeline, which is translated for the Friendship Pipeline. And it was triggered by, reportedly, a Russian drone strike on January 27th. That damaged infrastructure at the Brody oil hub in Ukraine. This pipeline is a critical artery to supplies to Slovakia and Hungary, with the disruption affecting Slovakia's Slovakian refinery and exacerbating economic tensions amid the ongoing Russian-Ukraine war. Now, where is the Friendship Pipeline? Well, it originates over here from Samara. And let's make this a bit bigger. It originates over here in Samara. And it goes through Belarus. Right along here. And it continues to the Ukrainian-Slovak border, down south to Brody. All right. And this is the focal point of the dispute. This is where the attack, the drone attack, was reported. Now, what you would say is that it would go down here into Slovakia and into Hungary. In these two areas right here. So this is the Hungary and this is the Slovak portion here. So this is why these countries are pissed. Because the oil got cut off here. And these pipelines now are running dry. Now, also from Samara in Russia, down, there is the proposed alternative route by Ukraine. And this runs 674 kilometers from the Black Sea port near Odessa, where the oil goes down this way. Down here. And there are these ports right here. And then it goes up, I believe, to Brody from here. So this is the alternative route through Ukraine. But it is, you can see, significantly longer than just this straight line here. allowing potential rerouting of non-Russian crude to connect to the Friendship pipeline for transit, where also ships can come in through here, offload, and pick up. And then you don't have to do any oil from Russia. You can just get your oil from here in the Black Sea. So you can still get Russian oil this way. But what the Ukrainians are saying is, hey, let's get oil into the Black Sea. You can pick it up here. And then we can continue on this path for Hungary and Slovakia. So that's what the Ukrainians are saying, are offering as an alternative route. And then there's the Adriatic, which I seem to be in the way of. So I'm going to move myself to the other side here. So then there's the Adriatic Sea. So instead of going through the waters in Greece, the Aegean Sea, and then through the Black Sea, through this route, the idea is you just go through the Mediterranean to the Adriatic into Croatia here. And this is what Zelensky said in that one clip. Just go to Croatia, get your oil through Croatia, and then there's a pipeline. Goes like this. And then boom, there you go. You have a pipeline that goes through Hungary and through Slovakia. Coming from Croatia as ships drop off and offload from the ports connected to Croatia and the Adriatic. So this is the actual map of what this is about. This is how things are actually moving. And hopefully that helps illustrate the idea, because it's one thing to look at the news and these geopolitical events in writing, and it's another thing to look at the map and see like, oh, I can actually see where the issues are in the world physically, geographically, and understand why these particular people are arguing, fighting, butting heads with each other. All right. And we can now go back. We can now exit this. Now, there is something here on Croatia. So why not just go through Croatia? Following the closure of the land route, Hungary and Slovakia turned to Croatia's Adria pipeline as their primary alternative for oil supplies. This transition has led to further diplomatic friction as both nations, Slovakia and Hungary, have filed formal complaints with the European Commission claiming that despite offering its pipeline as a, quote, helpful alternative, Croatia is abusing its monopoly to charge fees 3 times higher than the European average. And if we go to the pipeline, the Wikipedia page here, and then go to, I don't know, description, there doesn't seem to be anything here. But you can see how it connects to Hungary and Slovakia. And then these are further connections, a potential connection that goes directly, essentially, to Slovakia, it seems, instead of having to go through Hungary. So let's see here. Is there a section here on Croatia? Yeah, the dispute with Croatia. Zelensky revealed that Croatia had officially offered Hungary and Slovakia the necessary capacity to replace all Russian oil imports, but that Viktor Orban had refused. Zelensky stated that the refusal proves the dispute is not about energy security, excuse me, but rather a political preference, saying, well, they don't want to use the Croatian route because it's not Russian oil. They want to pay Russia. He emphasized that by rejecting this European alternative, Hungary and Slovakia are choosing to maintain a financial lifeline to Moscow despite the technical risks to the Friendship Druzhba pipeline. Croatian Prime Minister offered the Adria pipeline as a cheaper and more reliable alternative claiming the transit fees would be 3 times lower than those of the Druzhba route. On March 4th, the MOL Group, parent company of Slovnaft, acting on behalf of its Hungarian and Slovak subsidiaries, including Slovnaft, filed a formal complaint with the European Commission's Directorate General for Competition. The filing officially rejects Croatia's terms for using the Adria pipeline, causing the Croatian operator, Janaf, of abusing its dominant market position to engage in, quote, unjustified pricing and negotiation practices. MOL, which is this group, I don't know what it exactly stands for. It just keeps saying MOL, MOL, MOL. MOL argues that Janaf is exploiting the current energy crisis to charge transit fees that are actually 3 or 4 times higher than the fair market benchmarks, such as those of the TAL pipeline serving Austria and Germany, beyond the financial costs. The complaint alleges that Croatia is engaging in a, quote, refusal of supply by intentionally delaying the acceptance of legally permitted seaborne Russian oil shipments, citing unnecessary legal reviews as a delay tactic that directly endangers the energy security of Central Europe. In addition to these claims, MOL and Slovnaft have characterized the situation as a stalemate where Brussels has theoretically permitted the import of seaborne Russian oil due to the Druzhba pipeline outage, but Croatia continues to block it due to the interpretation of EU and US OFAC sanctions. While EU sanctions include an exemption allowing landlocked countries to import Russian crude by sea if their primary pipeline route is disrupted, Janaf has reportedly demanded that MOL obtain specific, separate permits from both the EU and the US Office of Foreign Assets Control for each shipment. For each shipment? I mean, I would argue maybe doing permits for each shipment is a bit overboard. Having sanctions temporarily lifted under specific conditions for qualifying ships makes sense, but permits for each ship, I mean, this is what the Hungarians were saying by the Croatians were delaying the oil. We're delaying, let's see here. I was just looking at it. Beyond the financial cost, the complaints allege that Croatia is engaging in a, quote, refusal of supply by intentionally delaying the acceptance of legally permitted seaborne Russian oil shipments, citing unnecessary legal reviews as a delay tactic. And then that's the delay tactic. MOL has rejected this demand as unrealistic and a, quote, unjustified bureaucratic obstacle, arguing that no such individual permits are required under existing law as long as the involved entities are not on sanctions lists. The Croatian operator Janaf issued a statement asserting that oil supplies for Hungary and Slovakia were fully secured and under no threat, emphasizing that they have already transported significant quantities of non-sanctioned oil for MOL in recent weeks. Yeah, probably because they've had to buy it because they can't get any other oil. Because remember, this thing was shut down in January, late January. And now we're in March. So for all of February, of course, they've had to been involved. Actually, was it late February or late January when this happened with the pipeline? Yeah, late January. So, yeah. And just going through a couple of these. Okay. The European Union, this is where they stand. Brussels has officially rejected the claims by Fico and Orban that the transit halt is a political maneuver by Kiev. So they're saying that the Kiev side is not a political maneuver. So the EU is siding with Ukraine. The commission stated it relies on technical data showing the pipeline was damaged by Russian airstrikes and that repairs are being hampered by ongoing security risks. I thought the report was that a drone hit the pipeline, not airstrikes. Maybe it was both. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas have strongly criticized the linkage of the oil dispute to the 90 billion euro steel, what is that, porcupine? Yeah, so they call it steel porcupine loan and the 20th sanctions package. Von der Leyen stated that the loan agreement, quote, cannot be broken and that the EU would deliver the funds to Ukraine one way or another, even if it requires bypass mechanisms to circumvent the Hungarian and Slovak vetoes. So I wonder what's going to happen in Slovakia and Hungary if the European Union does decide to go around them. Or if the European Union pressures the Croatians to allow the Russian oil to go through the Adria pipeline to those countries and maybe exchange for removing the vetoes. We know that Orban won't do it, but the Slovakians probably could, although I don't know too much about the personal preferences of the Slovakian prime minister, because he's usually much more vocal in media than the Slovakian prime minister. So I know more about Orban's stance than I do about the Slovakian prime minister, Slovakian president. But this is very, very funny because Zelensky is taking an extraordinarily harsh stance, not harsh, reasonable stance for his position to prevent Russian oil from going through Ukrainian pipelines and then being sold to Hungary and Slovakia, where they're paying Russia. And then that money is then being used in the war effort against Ukraine. So it's in Ukraine's rational interests, frankly, to not send that oil to their allies and allow them to purchase that oil. It makes rational sense in my mind. It makes sense that Ukraine would do that, and obviously they have an allegiance with the Croats to make sure that on the other end that there are difficulties in getting that oil through. But I find it very, very, very funny. See, if we go back to price of oil. Look how high it's gone, man. Look how high oil has gone. It's just gone up, 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 and away here. I find it very, very funny now, though, that I would imagine Zelensky is hopping mad with Trump, and especially Trump's U.S. Treasury, given that now the sanctions for Russian oil being sold to India have been lifted for the next month. And once that month's over, the sanctions go back on. But I would imagine Zelensky is really mad about that, because we know that the Indians are going to be purchasing that oil, and then that money is going to go into Russia's war effort against Ukraine. And it's the exact reason why Zelensky doesn't want to turn on the pipeline for Russian oil to go through. So even if there is damage, okay, there's damage. Nothing can be done. But there's conflicting reports from both sides of the story about the condition of the pipeline. I do find it unusual that the inspectors, the offer of the Slovakians and the Hungarians to send their own inspectors to the pipeline to actually see if the pipeline was damaged or in what condition the pipeline is in, if it was damaged to some degree. For Ukraine to just outright deny that inspection makes me a bit curious. And then also the rhetoric from Zelensky just outright saying, instead of falling back on, look, the pipeline is destroyed. The pipeline cannot send oil. Even if I wanted to, I could not send you any oil. Instead of falling back onto that rhetoric, Zelensky is going to the line of, I'm not going to send this guy any oil because he just needs this oil to win this election, and he's blocking all this money, so I'd rather have him out. That's what I am interpreting and seeing from looking at least at the information that we've covered here so far today. And that's been a very, very, very long segment. And now we're going to go to the next section here. This is a long stream, man. We've been going for 2 hours. But then again, I came prepared. I came very, very prepared for this stream. There are currently protests going on in Havana, in Cuba. Nighttime protests have erupted in the capital of Havana in Cuba. After more than 60 hours without any electricity, people have had enough. Protests against their communist regime are now being reported in several neighborhoods across the capital. And they're just banging pots and pans. And you can hardly see anybody because all the power's out. And then here's some more footage in Havana. And you can see all the power's out. Reports of protesters in various areas of Havana. Cuba against the regime. The ongoing blackouts and the crisis caused by 67 years of communism. And you can see everyone banging pots and pans literally on the road. But I don't, it doesn't look huge. The protest doesn't look huge, but I'd be pretty pissed if the power went out here. So, more people banging pots and pans saying down with communism. Yeah, and they're just destroying their pots and their pans, banging it against stuff. Again, I don't see a whole lot of people, but it looks loud as hell. Footage in the streets. And then this is, who is this? Tax collector, Miami-Dade County, Cuban-American business owner, entrepreneur, investor, politician, and philanthropist, Dariel Fernandez. The people of Cuba, this is translated. The people of Cuba are once again in the streets demanding that every human being deserves, what every human being deserves, freedom, dignity, and the right to decide their own future. As someone who came to this country after escaping a communist regime, I know very well the reality the Cuban people are facing. The Cuban people need the end of that communist and socialist dictatorship that for decades has oppressed, imprisoned, and destroyed the future of an entire nation. It is a regime that has only brought suffering to the Cuban people and continues to represent a threat to the national security of the United States of America. The coverage we are seeing today in the streets of Cuba is a powerful reminder that the desire for liberty cannot be silenced. I stand firmly with the Cuban people as they demand freedom, democracy, and the right to live without fear. Today, more than ever, freedom of Cuban people feels closer. And you can see this is actually a protest. And they're banging pots and pans. But I don't know how big the protest is. These are not good pictures of the protests. And let's see here. I'm pretty sure that's all the footage that I have. But if you want, we do have a speculated invasion of Cuba thread right here, and it's covering all the latest developments, all the things. Oh, this is actually kind of a fun one. This is actually showing the bread lines.
Cuba right now, and this is where you bring your rationing notebook to get 1 piece of bread per day. This is the notebook right over here, and you show it over here, and then they'll give you 1 piece of bread.
And maybe a few eggs.
So you get 1 piece of bread, and then sometimes if they have extra, they'll give you 1 egg. Sometimes you'll only get a few eggs per month, not cartons, single eggs. And then if you're lucky, they might give you extras, but don't depend on it. I am in Havana, Cuba right now, and this is where you...
So they're already having bread lines in the communist country. Hey! Cat on the desk. Okay. I have pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover. I thought this was nice. This is extra now. This is an extra section. We are excited to celebrate America's 250th birthday, says the Japan Embassy of DC. And we are going to gift the United States 250 cherry trees. How nice. Japan always loves to gift the United States cherry trees during big anniversaries. And it's very, very nice to see. Man, when America becomes 1,000 years old, and if Japan's still around, gifting 1,000 cherry trees is got a lot of trees. A lot of trees. Oh. And then this is a woman getting yelled at for drinking water. President Valsa Osmani is being criticized by conservative Muslims on social media for drinking water. Guys. Leader of the Muslim party, Fajla, accused Osmani of not fasting for Ramadan, saying this is disrespectful, except the majority of Albanians don't fast for Ramadan. Guys, oh my God, it's a woman drinking water. God forbid a man didn't hand her the cup. God forbid a man didn't pour her that, it was a man who poured her that water. Oh no. It's like this infantilization from a lot of people of women is nutty. I get it. It's a religious thing. Oh, you can't do it, but they don't fast for Ramadan. You're getting angry at the woman for drinking water. It's just very funny. I found it very funny. The headline, Muslims get mad at woman for drinking water. It's just too funny. It's just too funny. Okay, I have been streaming for a very long time. I've covered a handful of charts, and we did go over some expectations, some trading expectations. So I think it is a good place to stop. I'll say thank you guys for watching. This is a long stream. For those of you who've watched all the way to the end, thank you very, very much. I will see you guys in a bit, and especially those of you who hang out in the Discord and help with these research threads. Thank you guys very, very much. I will see you all in